Anything else? Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate your very clear presentation. I want to ask you, what about TM? I don't know too much about it, but I know...
Transcendental meditation is a group that I do consider to be a destructive cult. Why? Am I against meditation? No, I'm not against meditation. I meditate myself personally. But here's a classic example of a group that says, we're not a religion, we're not a philosophy, we're not a lifestyle, but they believe that Maharishi Mahesh Yogi is the greatest spiritual leader on the planet Earth. They're all vegetarian, and the puja ceremony in which you're given your mantra is actually, according to Maharishi, saying it is an initiation into Hinduism. This is an organization that says that if you have any anxiety or any stress, meditate. Well, as a therapist, I know that stress and anxiety is a very important things to have, because they tell us to pay attention to things. And that if we are having anxiety, it could be because we should get out of the way of that moving car, you know, or that, you know, we need to get counseling for our marriage, or that we have to go see our doctor because that pain that we're experiencing isn't normal. But if you're doing it as a thought-stopping methodology or as a way to just get into trance, I think it can be very destructive. Also, there are many different ways to meditate, and one way is not going to be good for everyone. And yet TMers, the true, you know, the fanatical ones, believe everyone should do it their way. And some studies have been done that suggest up to 40% of the general public actually have more stress from repeating a mantra over and over and over again, as opposed to other types of meditation. So let me just backtrack and say, what's my concern about TM? That they are deceptive, and that past the 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the afternoon, which I have no problem with at all, if you take the advanced courses and get further and further and further involved, and you up the pyramid, it becomes more and more totalitarian and destructive. And there are many former top leaders of TM that can tell you what's really going on inside that group. Yes?
I have a question about your own personal experience. When you entered the Moonies, was it like a gradual experience, or was it a stepwise, sudden snapping?
It was... my experience is that the vast number of people who get into a destructive cult get recruited at a vulnerable point in their life. What does that mean? When they break up in a relationship, when they experience the death of a loved one, when they become unemployed, when they move to a strange or new location, when they're off balance. For me, I had broken up with a girlfriend. I was approached by 3 women in the cafeteria who were smiling and flirting with me. And so my vulnerability was twofold: breaking up with my girlfriend and ignorance about deceptive mind control cults. For me, what they did was say, why don't you come for dinner? Would like to cook you dinner. Come on over. So that was step 1. Step 2 was, I want you to meet some of our friends from all over the world. We're kind of like a little United Nations here, which seemed really nice to me, and I was interested to meet people from different cultures and such. The next thing was, we're going away for the weekend. Come on along. They didn't say we're going to have a 3-day workshop where you're going to have 8 hours a day of lectures. You'll never be allowed to go, never be alone for a minute, not even to go to the bathroom. You know, we believe that Sun Myung Moon is the Messiah, and that he has to choose who you're going to marry and when you can have sex and in what position you can have sex and such. They didn't say any of that. So to get to the heart of your question, for me, it was a snapping experience at the workshop site, and they wanted me to stay. My inside was saying, get out of here, get out of here. And I left. At like 2 in the morning, I left. But I went home, but it was already in my head. And I talked to my mom, and she said, oh, let's go talk to the rabbi. We went and talked to the rabbi. Then that convinced me that I wanted to learn more about the group. It was very, talk about polarity responses. And within 1 more week, I had long hair, my hair was getting cut, my blue jeans were throwing out, putting on a suit, and my journey went. And it was 3 months into the experience that I remember stopping any thoughts of doubts. And I was made a leader, and I recruited and indoctrinated hundreds of people into the organization. By the way, I was at a leadership situation with Moon where he said in the fall of 1974, he said, quote, "When we take power in America, we will amend the Constitution and make it a capital offense for people to have sexual relations with people other than those assigned to them by the church," unquote. And then he proceeded to say, if people can't control their sexuality, we will be doing them a favor by taking their physical bodies away from them and sending them to the spirit world where they can be restored later. And my response was, yes, Father. Yes. Who hasn't asked the question? Okay.
Can a general statement be made about the heads of cults? Are any of them actually just criminals, or do all of them believe in their things?
There are a number of con men who are heads of cults, but the vast number, in my experience, are people who really believe their stuff, and as I mentioned before, that they themselves were victims of a cult. L. Ron Hubbard, the head of Scientology, was a follower of Aleister Crowley, by the way. Werner Erhard, head of EST and Forum, he was a Scientologist. Moon was involved with a cult in Korea called the Monastery of Israel. And most con men, they want to make money and they want to split. They don't want to get caught. They don't want to have problems. They don't stay around. But cult leaders make decisions based on that they really think that what they're doing is good and justified and that they're above the law and such. And so, yes?
What information do you have on the criteria that makes David Koresh a victim of a cult?
Well, he was involved with George Rodin, who, George Rodin was the head of the group before, and Vernon Howell joined this particular group, later started having sex with Rodin's wife. Rodin wound up going to be put in a mental hospital. There was a whole shootout situation and a challenge to raise the dead and all of that. But it's my personal belief that David Koresh, a.k.a. Vernon Howell, could have been convinced to leave peaceably from the standoff, and that, you know, he was not a psychopath. He was acting psychopathically, but he was not a psychopath. And I believe that going in with tanks and with CS gas was, I knew that morning. I had CNN on. I saw the tanks moving in. I had heard rumors a week earlier they were going to bring in tanks and gas from contacts down in Waco. And as soon as I saw the tanks, I got, my God, they're all dead. And they died. And I cried, as I cried when I saw the carnage at Jonestown. Because I saw, you know, but by the grace of God, I believe in God, that could have been me. I could have died. I could have been in the flames. I could have had the gun out. And I feel so sorry for the people who have survived the loss of all their friends. I feel so sorry for the families. And I feel sorry for all people involved with destructive mind control cult experiences. And I think that people deserve to be free